Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is the fifth and final adventure of Indiana Jones. Set during 1969, Indy must once again face off against the Nazis to stop them from claiming an ancient and powerful relic that could alter the course of human history. Despite my better judgment, I was hopeful that Disney would manage to pull off a satisfying conclusion to Indy's adventures. While I never expected it to recapture the same magic as the original trilogy, at the very least, I was hopeful that it would turn out better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Yet once again, it seems like my faith in Disney was misplaced, as even the ridiculously low bar set by Crystal Skull was too high for Dial of Destiny to surpass. The film opens with what is easily the best part of the movie, which is a flashback sequence set during the end of World War II. Using impressive de-aging technology, years of aging have been erased from Harrison Ford's face, allowing him to portray Indiana Jones just as he appeared in the original trilogy from the 80s. This sequence feels like the sequel to The Last Crusade that we never got, as Indy infiltrates a German base to retrieve the Lance of Longinus from the Nazis. While the technology used to make Harrison Ford appear younger is spectacular, the illusion unfortunately falls apart rather quickly. Indy's face may appear physically younger, yet his voice and movements betray the fact that Harrison Ford is in his 80s trying to portray a character half his age. This results in the film's immersion constantly being broken throughout the opening, as this uncanny feeling permeates through Harrison Ford's performance. On top of that, there were also a couple of moments during the flashback that completely break any suspension of disbelief, as characters will survive things that no one would have reasonably been able to survive. While these moments aren't as bad as nuking the fridge from the fourth movie, they are indicative of the lack of any real danger present throughout the film. As for the rest of the opening, it was a blast to watch. As long as you can get over the uncanny de-aging effect, then you will be treated to a fun train heist that manages to capture the classic feel of an Indiana Jones adventure. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Disney is closely watching the reception to this opening sequence, and gauging whether or not people actually want an Indiana Jones series on Disney Plus starring a de-aged Harrison Ford in short, half-hour episodes. Unfortunately, the rest of this movie fails to capture the adventurous fun that the series is known for. Now let's not beat around the bushes and just get right into the biggest thing holding this movie back. While I hate to admit it, Harrison Ford is just too old to be playing Indy as an action hero. Don't get me wrong, Harrison Ford does an amazing job donning Indy's fedora one last time. This is a character who wouldn't feel right being played by anyone other than Ford. Yet even in 2008, when Kingdom of the Crystal Skull released, people were claiming that Harrison Ford was too old to still be playing Indy. 15 years have passed since then, and Harrison Ford is now 81. While the previous Indiana Jones movies centered around creating these death-defying action set pieces to keep audiences on the edge of their seat, this film has to take Ford's age into account, and that really limits what they're able to show with the action. A key aspect of Indiana Jones movies is the constant peril that Indy finds himself in. Action scenes would gradually raise the stakes, building tension off the feeling that Indy could die at any moment. Making it out alive was never a small feat for Indy, as he would generally emerge bloodied and bruised from these deadly encounters. This is something which the action in Dial of Destiny is almost completely void of. With the exception of a sequence where Indy has to outrun a train on horseback, the rest of the action feels sterile and devoid of any real danger. It just isn't believable showing Indy this late in life pulling off stunts reminiscent of the previous films, and so what we're left with is a myriad of boring chase scenes that contribute little to the story and are bloated with visually dull CGI. This is the only Indiana Jones movie where I have felt bored during the action. It doesn't help that the action constantly clashes with the tone. It's clear that this film wants to tell the story of an aging Indy trying to find his place in a world that has forgotten him. He is a relic of a bygone era, forced into retirement with nothing left to live for, yet he is tricked into going on this final adventure that he clearly wants no part of. The action is used more as a distraction to disguise just how terrified Indy is for his life, as he is forced into situations which no senior should have to endure. All the while, John Williams' iconic score is triumphantly playing in the background to give you the impression that this is a fun globe-trotting adventure. This movie feels like going to an amusement park with a senior in their 80s and then forcing them onto every roller coaster ride. All the while, the iconic Raiders theme is playing in the background. Sure, you may have a blast, but the moment you look beside you at the senior clinging on for dear life, You're going to regret ever forcing them out of the house to begin with. As for the other characters accompanying Indy on his final adventure, they fail to leave a positive impression. Phoebe Waller-Bridge plays Indy's goddaughter Helena Shaw, who is introduced in a way to make the audience hate her, but then never does enough to fully redeem the horrible things she does to Indy across their adventure together. I get what they were going for with this character, but some of the things she ends up doing to Indy are just downright cruel, and she performs them with no hesitation or thought to the fact that they could very likely end up killing Indy. Her actions are definitely not what you would expect from a character that you're supposed to be rooting for. While I don't hate this character, the movie never did enough to make me care about her by the end, and she really isn't the sort of character I'd want to see carrying on Indy's legacy. The villain in this movie is played by Mads Mikkelsen. He plays Dr. Voller, a Nazi scientist recruited by NASA to work on the Apollo project. Mikkelsen undoubtedly brings a great performance to this character, which is perhaps Voller's only saving grace, as the writing leaves him feeling more like an incompetent goon rather than a ruthless force to be feared. Even his defeat is a disappointment, as it is easily the tamest, least creative villain death in the franchise. By the end of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, I felt like this was a sequel too long in the making, made by a studio that is too afraid to take creative risks. The result is an uninspired finale which desperately wishes to recapture what made the series great to begin with, all while trying to work around an action star in his 80s. While this film is definitely not as bad as Disney's attempt at concluding the Star Wars saga, it fails to justify its own existence by not even being able to surpass Kingdom of the Crystal Skull in terms of a satisfying ending for Indy. But these have just been my thoughts on Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Which film do you think best caps off Indy's adventures? Let me know in the comments, and until next time, thanks for watching.